Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hold My Ball podcast, the greatest show on planet Earth. Our guest today is a 14-year big league vet. This man led the American League in RBIs in 2001. He's got 2 Silver Slugger Awards, 4 Gold Gloves, and 3-time All Star. This man is the new hitting coach for the Texas Rangers, and he is the host of the Bret Boone podcast, which is a good one you can find on all platforms. I highly suggest you find it, you follow him on all socials, and you listen to what this man has to say and what his guests have to say, because it is good. But for now, listen to this episode, because I promise you're going to learn something. I promise you're going to laugh. I promise you're going to reminisce a little bit about the good days of watching this man play baseball. I had a blast talking to him. Let's cue the music. Let's get to the episode. Without further ado, Mr. Bret Boone. Mr. Boone, how are we today?
I'm doing well. How you doing, Jake?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
You're in Minnesota.
We're in Minnesota. Yes.
What game are we on with them right now? What is the series starting?
We're just starting. Yeah, we had an off day yesterday. Right about a month that I've been back to work, and it's been a journey, but yeah, it's interesting. It's been a little different than I thought it was going to be, but at the same time, exciting. Get you back in the dugout. Haven't been there in a long time. To be honest with you, it's tougher it's tougher coaching than playing. Playing I had a little control once the game started. But coaching, it's like once that game starts, good luck. I've done all I could do to try to help you in a tiny way to prepare for a big league contest, and now it's out of my hands, and you live and you die with your hitters, and with wins and losses. And as a player, it's a grind. It's 162, but you get a little reprieve sometimes when I might get a couple hits and hit a 3-run homer and we lose. So I'm going to be able to sleep tonight. As a coach, when you lose, no, you went 0 for 5 again. And so it's been emotionally, it's been a little different than I had anticipated. But you never stop learning in this game.
Yeah, I feel like I coached at Carlsbad High, and I used to always say that. I'm like, it's more stressful to be a coach because you don't have control. And when you're in the box, hitting, and I didn't play at that high of a level, but to be the one in the box is you have control, and it is what it is. And you're in the moment where as a spectator or a coach, you're just like, all right. And like you said, this isn't basketball. You can't call a timeout and yell at a guy while a play's happening. It's just like you set the lineup and go, okie dokie, go get them, boys.
Exactly. And you
Tough.
and you don't. And I've had a lot of buddies that, are in the game and have made this a part of their life post playing. And, of course, I've talked to my brother quite a bit through the years since he's been managing. And, there's been a lot of times where he's calling me and he's not feeling good. They've lost 6 or 7, and I'm the big brother talking them off the ledge. And I'm kind of going, listen, bud, you can do whatever you can do to put those guys in the best position to succeed post that lineup. But once the game starts, you're irrelevant, kind of. A computer can make the pitching changes.
Yeah. And it probably does half the time, huh?
And I would tell him that, and, just kind of just brotherly stuff. But then once you get in it, you realize what you were talking about being a coach, and it's a different emotion than being a player. And I didn't realize that now when I have conversations with Aaron, he knows, all right, now you know what it's like. I said, I do. I'm not managing, I'm the hitting coach, but you're still staff versus player. So that's been a big opening of my eyes. Like, I didn't expect that. I didn't expect the emotional investment it takes. I knew I'd come and I'd care.
Yep.
But I didn't realize how much I'd care and how much I was in the box with them in spirit and just living and dying with every at bat, and the jubilation when a player, you see him succeed, and the heartache when you see, he's right on the, but it just, he can't take that practice session to the field quite yet. It's not translating, and you're hurting with him. So I didn't think it would be, the emotions would be that strong. Um, I kind of liken it to my son, following my son around in the minor leagues, and watching him when he was doing well, how excited I was inside. Yet I always tried to have that cool demeanor in the stands. People are watching,
Mm-hmm.
and I got to be that cool guy, and don't let them see you sweat. But when he was doing well, you got fireworks going off inside, and you keep him at bay. But on the flip side, when he was struggling, oh, I was hurting with him so much, and it's like, I wish I could come out there and help you, but I can't, because dad's older now, and he doesn't have the bat speed that he used to have. So now it's kind of a similar feeling to watching my kids play. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, now I've got 13 kids, and I'm
Yep.
watching them, and it happens to be at a different level with, and I constantly remind these guys when we go through tough times, remember this: you're World Series champions less than about a year ago. Don't don't forget that. This game's hard. Hitting especially is unbelievably hard, but it's in there, and yeah, it's been fun so far, but a lot of emotions, roller
Yeah.
coaster.
Yeah. It's you talk about the difference, I guess, with the manager and a hitting coach. The manager, and
Oh, the
correct me.
manager just yells at the hitting coach.
Well,
That's all.
that's what I'm saying. I was gonna say,
Right.
correct me if I'm wrong, but the manager has all you guys in place, and he's there to create the culture and the vibes and
Mhm.
whatever. But so when somebody's not hitting or a team's not hitting, everybody looks at you and goes,
Oh,
"Come on, Boone, what are we doing?" And your investment in these hitters has got to be just
absolutely.
like, "Come on."
Oh, it's crazy because, when they first announced it, they made a huge deal of it, and we're all over everywhere. And I was laughing because I'd do an interview, and I'd say, that, because as a player, I loved being in the middle. I loved being the focal point. I was out there for the media all the time. But as a hitting coach, I feel a little uncomfortable. It's like, I'm a background player, right? These guys, when they succeed, it's really not because of me. And by the way, when they fail, it's really not because of me. I'm here to do anything I can to the best hitting coaches I ever had, and I had a ton of them, had the ability to walk by me in the moment, say something to me that just loosened something right here, and go, he's right. And it gave me hope when I didn't have any hope for that next at bat. Those were the
Mhm.
greatest hitting coaches, not the guys that sit there and get your elbow here and get. We all know you got to get in hitting position, and the weight transfer, and everybody's so different how they start. All the great hitters, all the really good hitters, you get to the same spot when the ball's in the hitting zone. That's the trick. How do you get there? And the best ones I ever found were the guys that had that uncanny ability to walk by me in the dugout when I'm just, I'm 0 for my last 6, and I've struck out twice, and they say, "Hey, Boone, remember when we were in Texas 2 weeks ago, and you did that with your top hand? You might want to do that again." And I go, "That's
Mm.
right. I got a chance." And sometimes that's all we need, is a chance. And then there's other things you know that I try to tell these guys. Just my journeys, my successes, my failures, my experience. Um, I remember when I did that, and this is what I did to counter that. If that can help somebody a little bit, well, then I'm doing my job. Because at the end of the day, it's these guys in the box, and when they're good, it's not because of me. It's because they're good.
Yeah, I like that. I think, that's what I say that a lot. I'm like, "These are the best players in the world." Same when you played. Like, these are the
Absolutely.
best players on planet Earth, so it has to come down to either a tiny mechanical adjustment or most of the time, I would imagine, a mental, like you just said, the right words that remind you of something or when you were successful. I used to talk to David Justice about a year ago. We did a podcast for a little bit, and he said there was a couple teammates, they would give out, like, the players' cards, like, "Boone, you're struggling." He'd give you a card and go, "Read the back of that. Look at 2001," or whatever, and go, "That's you
Right.
right there, man." And that's all he goes, "That's all they would do. They wouldn't tell you anything else, but that mental side." goes such a long ways in
And
this game.
the mental side's the whole thing. It's the
Hmm.
whole thing, and it's not we get so wrapped up in our swing and the technical and nowadays the video and, "Oh, my left elbow's here," and it's like, sometimes you gotta throw that all away. For me, what changed in throughout my career was my prep, and by my prep, I mean going into a series, the thought process and how I get to each and every at bat. When I was a young player, I had a skill set and I was fast. And that kind of kept me alive because my hands were so fast. I really didn't have a clue. I was just kind of coming to the ballpark with my hair on fire and swinging really hard.
Hmm.
And I had some success and I had some humbling times. As I got a little bit older and I started to really look at it from a more I love the word mature uh, lens, I just started thinking, how can I be the best player I can be? Well, I go back to, you know, I start thinking the process. I talk to great hitters that I had a lot of respect for, and this is kind of documented. But one of my guys and one of my best friends in the game is Edgar Martinez, and I'd sit down with him and I said, "Poppy, tell me, why this and that?" And we started off, and I said goals, and I said, "I never set goals before." He said, "Well, you ever hit? Let's hit 350 next year." I said, "I've never hit 350." So, well, let's do it once. That year I hit 330,
Mm.
and he said, "Let's hit 45 homers." I said, "The most I've hit is 26." He goes, "Well, let's hit 45 this year," and I hit 37. Let's drive in 100. Well, I've done that. That's real. Well, let's drive in 150. And I
Mm.
said, 150? I've never driven in more than 100. He goes, if you set your goals high and you get close to them, you're not going to be disappointed because they're going to be really good.
Yeah.
And if you reach them, wow.
Hmm.
But that's the first thing he said to me. And then he said, how do you game plan? And I came up with a game plan for 162 games. And it was coming into a series, and once you get a little bit of some reps and you have some experience and you have you have, what's the word I'm looking for? You have history with these
Okay.
pitchers because you've been around 8 or 9 years. So I know tonight I'm facing Joe Smith, and I faced Joe Smith throughout my career 20 times. Well, what has my success been against Joe?
Hmm.
What's he gotten me out on? How am I swinging right now? Where are we in the series? Is it game 3? What have I done the first 2 games? Not only what I've done, but what have I done off certain pitches? Because that catcher remembers that he hung me a breaking ball and I hit it where I hit it.
Hmm.
And he remembers if I took a fastball away and shot it down the first base. These are things that formulate your approach to hitting. Who's hitting in front of me? Who's hitting behind me? Is there a base open? Is there not a base open? What's my history with this pitcher? Who's in the bullpen that might come in to face me right now? And when I talk to my on deck hitter, what's his history against this pitcher? So I know whether he might come after me or he might be a little careful and pitch around me. That's the game plan you come up with. And every great hitter I've ever been around, played with, played against, had a game plan like that. That's not something you learn the first day of big league camp,
Hmm.
but it's something over time. If you get into it and you want to be the best you can be, that's how you become the best you can be. Most importantly, watch the game. Watch the game. I tell my hitters that all the time. If you've got 3 right-handed batters coming up before you, pick one that you think you are like your skill set is like. Watch how he pitches him. Probably going to pitch you like that. It's going to give you the intel. What I do as a player is I need to eliminate a pitch. If I can eliminate a pitch, I got you. If you can throw me a first pitch fastball, which every pitcher on planet Earth for the last 150 years has done to get a strike,
Hmm.
that's where we go to get a strike. I don't have to hit a home run, but if I can shoot one in that hole to the right side, that pitcher's going to give you that look like, wow, I located that pitch, and he just acted like it was no big deal. Guess what? Next at bat, he's not throwing me first pitch.
Yep.
Fastball away. Unless you're one of the elite guys that'll do it just so they can do it. Greg Maddux does that to me, doesn't mean he's not going back there. But that's why he's Greg Maddux. If
Hmm.
Pedro goes back there, that's what he's. But the average pitcher out there, 9 out of 10 guys, I just eliminated fastball away. So the next at bat, what's going to happen? He's either going to buzz me in, which I'm going to ignore anyway. I don't want that pitch in, or he's
Hmm.
going to try to trick me. So I've just eliminated a pitch. I've just made the at bat easier. Now I still, when I get the pitch, I you don't miss it. Don't miss it.
That's what separates you guys from everybody else is you miss your pitches less.
Right. So anyway, I could talk about this all day. That's my passion, is really not the physical and the
Mm-hmm.
setup and the how we get to the. It's the chess match during the game, and it's
Yeah.
so important, and it gets deeper, and you get into the catcher. What kind of catcher is this? Is this catcher thinking with me? Is this Jason Varitek who will think with me, or is this catcher that doesn't really care? He's worried about throwing out the runner.
Hmm.
But those both are important of how my thought process on how I'm going to approach this at bat come into play.
Yeah. This
It's awesome.
is this what you feel right now you're bringing to Texas in the new gig? Because it's a different game, that's for sure.
It's absolutely a different game. The culture's different. The way that
Mm-hmm.
the players are brought up today and the things they talk about. What I'm trying to do is learn personalities, and I the one thing I didn't want to do is come in and turn over the dinner table and say, this is the way we're going to do it.
Yeah.
That I don't think that's a positive thing. I need to come in. I need to learn these guys' personalities, what makes them tick, what I can say to one player that maybe I wouldn't say to another player because of how they take it. I need to learn it, but you need time, live it on the ground with these guys to learn that. I've been here a month. I'm starting to get to know these guys and the personalities, what I can say to maybe a Marcus Simeon. Maybe I've got to say in a different way to a Wyatt Langford. And I'm not saying those two particulars, they're just hypotheticals.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I'm really learning, is the guys, because that's what matters, is the guys and their personalities and what they need to hear. I learned that from hitting coaches and managers throughout my career. So that's the main thing. Yes, that philosophy of how we think through the game subtly, I'm sprinkling in, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, and then sometimes, you got to love on these guys. You got to love on them when they're down and out. You got to give them a hug and say it's going to be all right. And
Yeah.
and maybe you don't literally give them a hug, but you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you find out through time and through trial and error, some guys need a kick in the butt. They got. I was that type of player, and I learned that through my journey. And when I was young, I had some managers that were pretty tough on me, and I resented it. And I was pissed, and we were fighting.
Mm-hmm.
Made me a better player. And years later, I look back as a veteran, and I thought, man, there was a method to his madness. And I talked to a Davy Johnson. Said, Davy, did you know what you were doing when you did that? He goes, of course I did, Brett. And I said, it was brilliant. You pissed me off, and man, but he knew this. This made my type of player play better when I got pissed.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas he knew another player, I can't do that with him. I got to love on him. So it's all about person. I don't think it's different than anything, than being a CEO of a company. It's
Yeah.
get the most out of the guys, your employees, and to get the best finished product.
That was my mantra for my coaches when I coached. I said we got to coach this team as individually as possible. Figure out each guy, figure him out. It'll help the team, but it's got to be this guy is this way. That guy, like you just said, you could talk to one guy a certain way. Let me ask you this. Did you come to, did you bring your son to Carlsbad High during COVID when
Yeah,
everything was okay? Okay. I
yeah,
thought
you were
so.
there.
I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
there. I was hitting some ground balls. It
We
was
were with
you,
Roberts.
Roberts, and Hoffman,
Yeah,
I think, too. So the
yeah.
kids were there. This is something that stuck with me, and I literally have told this story 20 times in this is why big leaguers are big leaguers. We were hitting ground balls. It was everything's closed. It was that time. So we just said, oh, let's go get a little work in. It's hard to find a spot. And I think I was hitting them. Dave was talking to some guys. You were playing first base. You were catching for them, right? They were all at short. They
Yep,
were throwing
yep.
across to you.
Right.
And your son, I just loved this so much because it made so much sense. At that time, what was your son? Did he was just drafted?
Think
Or maybe
he was
I
just
think it
drafted, or he might have been a junior in college.
okay. So I mean, this is as lax as it gets. We're just out there hitting some ground balls, and he ended up throwing one that you caught. It was at probably knee height by the time it got to you, and you just kind of stopped and said, "Hey." and you got on him and all the kids there. There was 3 or 4 of them, and they're your family friends and stuff, but you said, "Hey, why? What's the point? What's the point in doing this if we're not gonna do it right?" And it was this moment of like, why waste any you're already here. Why just hang and why do this? And it was accepted, and the rest, they maybe win another 15 minutes of ground balls, and every single one of them was like game speed, game reps, and I always was under the belief, like, if you do something a certain way, you will get better. However, if you do it the other way, it's not that you're not gonna get better, you'll get worse. So I when you did that, it stuck in my head so much, and I loved that idea.
I think it's important. I think you practice perfect because you're not
Mhm.
going to play perfect. But if you practice perfect long enough, it's going to give you the best chance statistically to be the best player you can be when you go out there.
Yeah.
You know, all my thoughts and beliefs go to the big picture and the long haul of 162 games. My thought process of game planning each at bat, and the fact that my big thing is when you leave the on deck circle, our biggest detriment as hitters is what's in between here. It, and the thoughts and everything going on. If I can eliminate that when I leave the on deck circle, if I formulate my plan, that plan may work or it may not work, but I got a plan. When I leave that on deck circle, if I can have nothing else in my mind except for that plan, execute that plan, it doesn't mean I'm going to win every time. Doesn't mean I'm not going to go 0 for 4 with 2 punch outs. It's going to happen. But that doesn't mean we abandon it. You know, that's
Mhm.
what I see a lot of. You work really good, and you go out and it doesn't work, and it's like, oh, let's abandon that and start over. No, you got to stay with it sometimes. These pitchers are really good. It's the big leagues. It's hard. Um, and that's what that's my whole thing is don't abandon the plan. Have a plan every day and execute. And I think over the long run, you're going to be as successful as your skill set allows. And it's like you were mentioning the individuality. It's absolutely individual. It's not for everybody. I'm not saying everybody has to do what I do. It's like hitting. You know, I used to sit there and man, I'd fiddle with my hands, and it's like, and my dad would look at me and go, "What are you doing? You hit with your legs." I said, "Dad, I understand that, but I can't think hit with my legs. If I get my hands right where they're supposed to be, my legs go to perfect position."
Mm.
That was me. That doesn't mean that's everybody.
Yeah.
Some guys could do a toe tap and that set their hands. We've got
Yeah.
to find what is your trigger, and let's concentrate on that because we're all different. And I have a couple guys that are handsy, and I'm going, you know, we're talking about legs and strides and getting into hitting position, and I go, I was like you. I can completely understand your hands. I had a player come up to me the other day. He said, "Booney, I got to feel like my shoulder is scraping up the side of my face towards my ear, but not sideways." And I go, I understand what you're talking about. And he's laughing at me. And I said, you think it's funny, but I understand how weird and quirky we are.
Mhm.
I was kind of embarrassed sometimes to tell my hitting coaches what I needed to feel because I'm like, no other person on earth can really understand what I'm about to
Yeah.
say because it's so strange. But we are so strange as hitters. And when he said that, he needs his shoulder to be rolling up the side of his face, this angle, not this angle.
Mhm.
And he looked at me cracking up like, "Do you understand?" And I went, "Actually, I do. I do." And it's so bizarre because oh man, baseball is so crazy.
But that's such a big piece of being, and I'm sure you know as well as anybody, a lot of coaches that have played probably would make terrible coaches. A lot of guys that have played for a long time probably make really good ones. Just for that, for a guy to be able to say that to you, and you look at him and know exactly what he's saying, where I played long enough to know exactly what you mean. I've felt that in my own shoulder or whatever you're trying to explain. I've felt it personally, and I can relate to this. I think it's such a big deal to have the experience, really just to be able, not the success or whatever it is, but the experience to be able to relate to their mindset and their feelings and what they're going through as a coach is a big deal because like you said, you've been there a month. You're not coming in with this is the way I want everyone to hit. You're probably just hanging out, learning everybody. And in the long run, there'll be tweaks here. The more you get to know them, the more you can coach them. But in the big leagues, you probably it's probably not a good spot for you to pop in as the new hitting coach. You go, all right, everybody, circle it up.
Yeah,
Here's what we're doing. Can't do
hit
that.
like me. Everybody
Yeah,
hit like me.
yeah,
No,
it's crazy.
that's good. And you know the funny part that I found, and so much is made of analytics and this, and by the way, yes, there is so much information out there and stuff that I'm envious of, to be honest with you. The amount of video that I have at my fingertips that I can sit here in my hotel room and go through anything. I can get anything I want. As a hitter, oh, that was gold to me.
Mhm.
Um,
Oh, you guys have it in the dugout.
yeah,
It's
it
crazy.
and I just think sometimes too much information in the wrong hands is a detriment. But for most player, I just want all the give me all the intel. I'll decipher, I'll decide what I use, but give
Mhm,
it to me. So I'm envious in that respect. The only thing I'm finding a little different, as much as the game has changed, I'm finding it's still the same. It's still a battle from a guy 60 feet away from me, trying to shove, and I'm trying to kick the crap out of him.
mhm.
That's what the game is and will always be. And the strike zones have changed, and the velocity's a little bit, but it's still best hitter in the world against best hitter pitcher in the world, and it's always been that way, and it doesn't matter what generation you come from.
Yep.
um
It
but it's the
that's the on
analytics aren't these crazy numbers. The way the kids talk about it, or I keep saying kids, I mean current players, they're my son's age.
mhm,
The way they talk about it is different, but we're the same. They say that was 101 at 23 degrees. And you know what? I look at him, I say, translate that for me. And they go, Booney, that means you smoked that ball. I said, thank you. It's the
yeah,
same thing.
yeah.
And I
That
tease
means
them
you
all the time
yeah,
about launch angle and expected hit rate on a ball. I said, I don't really give a crap about expected hit rate. We got a runner on third, less than 2 outs, and you smoke a ball at 100 miles an hour to third baseman. That's a terrible job. I say, because you have a job to do right here. If you
mhm,
hit an 18 hopper to shortstop and that run scores, that's a hell of a job right there. So take these at bat. That's another thing I talk to these guys about. These at bats are so important. Every at bat's not the same. 2-0 is not the same as 0-2. And a runner on third and less than 2 outs is not the same as bases empty, no outs.
mhm.
We have a job to do. Take each and every at bat. And what is my job here? And play the game. Play the game right. If you play the game right over time, you can never lose.
Yeah,
You're going to be as good as you can be. Play the game correctly, and I mean move runners. And I don't mean give myself up and serve a ball to the right side. I mean get a base hit the other way. But if I don't, I get that runner over from third. That's how you play baseball, and that's what creates a camaraderie and a culture team wise. That is a tough It's a tough team to play. It's a tough enemy. When you genuinely have teammates, and I don't mean because we've all been on teams where, hey, way to swing it, Joe, when really you're thinking, screw Joe, I wish I got a hit. We've all been there.
yeah,
But the great teams I've been on, I got teammates genuinely pulling for teammates. When you get that, wow, that's a
mhm,
tough opponent. But
yeah.
you gotta create that.
You know what gets me is when you talk about real winning baseball, and I think it's you can't reinvent the wheel on how to win baseball games. It is always gonna be the same, and what I think is so funny is the Dodgers last year, they win the World Series. They they sacrifice bunted 10 times in the playoffs. They sacrifice bunted 11 times in 162 games. And I find that to be so interesting that all of a sudden, like when you break, not even so much whether that's the right or wrong thing to do, but it's the proof that winning baseball is will never change because when the Dodgers need to win playoff games and World Series games, all of a sudden they go get the bunt down, move the runner over. They do exactly what you're just talking about. When for 162 games, it's leave the yard.
Well, I'll tell you, and here's I learned this years ago. It's it's another Edgar Martinez. It's 2001. That's the year we won 116 games. and there's a runner on second. There's nobody out, and I think it's like an 8-2 or 10-2 ball game. It's a laugher. We're winning, and I see Edgar get as inside of a ball as you can. Hits a one-hop rocket to the second baseman, moves the runner. He's out. He comes to the dugout. I said, well, Edgar, what do you do? Are you trying to get him over? He goes, oh yeah. I said, why are you giving yourself up in that situation? He says, Boone, I'm not giving myself up. He said, I was trying to get a hit. I said, but if not, I was going to move that runner. I said, it's 10-2. What does it matter? He goes, because you always play the game right. If you play the game right in the long run, your numbers will be right where they need to be. And I thought about it. And then I thought thinking about different and how that affects the team. By him moving that runner in a 10-2 game where nobody expects anybody to do anything. Oh, hit for yourself. You hear that all the time?
Yep.
Well, I think that's a bunch of crap. We're all hitting for ourselves all the time, but you're playing the game correctly. By him moving that runner, that guy on deck that came up and hit a sacrifice fly might not have driven in a run for a week. And all of a sudden in his brain, because we're crazy as hitters, he says, I can drive in a run again. People don't understand how huge that is. That little that little confidence that you get from doing that. And I thought, and if he did it, and then he did it, I'll be damned if the 25th man on the roster isn't going to do it. And now all of a sudden you got 25 guys playing like that. Wow. That's what did I say before? That's a tough opponent.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start to believe, and it just becomes automatic. And then all of a sudden, somebody leads off with a double. A lefty comes up and completely rolls over a ground ball, gets him to third. Next guy hits a sac fly, and the opposing team says, here they go again.
Yep.
It's deflating.
Yep.
I've been on teams that had it done to me, and I've been on teams that we did it to you every night, and you knew we were going to beat you. Here we go again. Here they go again, playing the game correctly. It's 1-0 before the national anthem's over. And you're going, yeah, and it's going to be 2 and 3 and 4, and you know you're going to lose tonight, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they know they're going to lose.
Yeah. I think that's it. That's the difference in having a team that we showed up here tonight to win this ball game. There's 25 of us that's all we're here to do, nothing else. And when you have 25 guys,
I say to the hitters all the time. We can go over this, watch video till you're blue in the face. You got a 2-seamer, 4-seamer cutter, boom, boom, boom. At the end of the day, I look at his ERA, and I said, guys, this guy's got a 5.4. You know what that means? He doesn't expect to be out there in the fourth. Don't let him be there. Because if you drop a 3 spot on him, you know what he's going to say? Here we go again.
Mm-hmm.
Just like when you're in a slump and you can't get a hit and you smoke a ball, but it's right at somebody. What do you say? Here we go again. I expected to hit the ball hard and get out again.
Mm-hmm.
He expects you to kick his butt tonight. Don't let him get to the 5th inning, look around like, oh my gosh, I haven't given a run up yet. This is weird.
Yep.
Because when you have a 5.4 or a 5.5, you give it up. You'll find a way to give it up. It's not at this stage of the season. It's not a fluke. It's not, oh, he had one bad outing. No, you've got a 5.4 because you're not pitching well. And you know it. So let's not let you off the hook as a team. Now, I still have respect. He's a big league pitcher. Maybe things aren't going good. As a hitter, believe me, you talk about the bubblegum card, check my bubblegum card. I've had some tough years. This game is humbling. And I don't mean any disrespect, but it's a mindset going into a game that I think is important.
Yeah, I think everybody understands you coaches have the utmost respect, but that guy's not wearing your jersey tonight, so who cares? For right now, I'm on my guys. So I think we get that. This is let me do this. Speaking of, you said you've had some great years, some tough years. I did this thing. We had Scooble on the other day, which was an interesting.
Scooble.
He's awesome. That guy
I had him on my show. I had him on my podcast. He's
great. He's just awesome. I love seeing a guy who's currently, the best in the world at what he does, and you get him on. He's just another guy. He's a good one. He's a very down to earth. But I did this thing with him where I gave him like 6 batters, and I just gave him the stats, and he guessed he guessed which batters they were, and he was like, I think he went like 6 for 7 just based off the
Okay.
thing. So I got 2. These are 2 guys you faced a lot.
Well, let me preface this with Scooble is currently how
He's
old is
currently
he?
playing. Yes, he is. I know. He's 30.
So
I think 30.
yeah, so he's only gotta go back like 5 years at the
I
most. I
but
gotta
I
go back 30.
You gotta go back 30, but
Alright, go ahead.
I stayed within, like, guys that you've had a good, like, 40 plus at bats with.
Okay,
And one guy you struggled, one guy you hit really well. So I only
okay.
got 2 for you.
Oh, I know the guys there's some guys that really owned me.
There's
So
some
I'll have
guys that owned you, but there's some guys you own. So you want I got 2 for you. Let me ask you
okay.
this one first, though. Do you know who you faced the most in your career? Most plate appearances?
Hold on, say that again? It cut out a little bit.
Do you know who, you had the most plate appearances against in your career?
Andy Bennis? Nah,
Nope. Close. That's funny you say that. Because you hammered him.
I hit Andy pretty good.
You hit 419 against him.
Yeah, Andy I did pretty good against.
419 with about a 1200 OPS.
His brother, not so much, but I didn't face his
No?
brother as much.
Okay.
I don't the most,
I'll give
uh,
you a hint. He has a legendary curveball.
okay, so it could be well, it's not gonna be Daryl Kyle. It could be, Zito.
Mhm.
Is it Zito?
It is a Zito, yep.
Okay.
57 plate appearances.
I did okay against Zito. I would say I didn't own him, he didn't own me. It was kinda in the middle.
No,
Guess
you were good.
270, 270,
288, 774 OPS.
maybe a homer or 2.
Let's see, 2 home runs, yep.
Yeah,
15 you were 15 for 52. So,
yeah.
that's not bad, second guess. Let's do this. You want the guy that you hit well against first or the one
That
that
doesn't matter.
had your
Give me
number?
either one. Give me either one.
Alright, you were 2 for 28 against this guy. 071, 11 Ks, 175 OPS.
Al Leiter,
No, close. Well, I say
Randy
close, but
Johnson.
Randy Johnson. Yes, sir. That's a tough AB there, huh?
That is a tough AB. That's the best left-hander I've ever faced. Al
Mhm.
Leiter, man, was he good. He had my number. And I still his son's on our team, Jack, and Al will I'll see Al pop up. And I hate talking to him. I said, I really hate to this day, I hate talking to guys that had my number because deep down, even though we're 50 something now, when we have the conversation, you owned me, and I don't like it.
Mhm. I
And
love
now
that.
I'm forced to talk to you because your son's on my team.
That is good. Alright, let's go. Last guy here. 13 for 32, 406 average. You had 1128 OPS. Now this is, again, you saw this guy a lot. You had 36 plate appearances against this guy.
How many homers?
Home runs, let's see here. You only had 1 home run, but
Only one
5
homer.
5 doubles, so half of your 13 hits went for extra bases.
Mike Hampton? No.
No,
I don't think I'm gonna get this right because
this is a
I would
tough
have
one.
said Oral Hershiser, but I had more homers off Oral.
This was Mark Mulder.
Mark Mulder, really?
Mhm. Yep.
So part of the big three: Zito, Mulder, and Hudson, Zito, and Mulder.
Mhm. You just saw
They
those.
were good. They were good. The thing is, I didn't mind facing either one of them. All three.
Yeah.
Mulder had a nasty split. Zito's going to pop you that curveball, and Huddy's going to throw you that sinker,
Yeah.
nonstop until he hangs you. He hung me a curveball one day, and I said, "Huddy, why would you throw me that?" And I hit a homer off him. I said, I can't lift your sinker. So why are you going to throw me that spinny light curveball? And he
Mhm.
laughed, kind of F you, Boney. But those guys were really good. And we had a lot. Oh man, early 2000s, a lot of battle with those Oakland A teams. There were some good teams.
Yeah. This is what I love going through obviously you're coaching now, like you said, but to go through your stats, the reason I started doing this is I was looking to see what somebody did against somebody, and then I just found out you could pull up every pitcher you've ever faced, and it starts with the most
Yeah.
at bats and goes to the bottom, which is crazy. But I'll tell you what, with yours, amazed at, and I guess this is the difference in today's game versus when you played. But man, I don't think you saw the best in the game a good 30, 40 plus times. And I think I'm looking at Chan-Ho Park K'd you up 11 times, and I think he's one of the only guys that had you in double-digit strikeouts, and it's unbelievable to think the pitchers you were facing that you just didn't strike out. You went up there and you hit the ball and you put it in play, and you had great numbers. I mean, your average against most of these guys has gotta be high 200s, and I'm talking, when you mix in the Maddocks and the Smoltz and the Pedros, these are the best in the game. Your approach.
Well, and I think that's once you get, and I'll tell these current players, that's the great thing about talking to other big league guys is you talked about emotions, and I told them when I first got here, I said the one thing I can uh be right in there with you is I have felt every emotion you possibly can feel on this field. I've been at the top of the mountain, I've been at the bottom, and I've been everywhere in between. So a lot of times big league hitters, when they're in a space, whether it's good or bad, there's not too many people that can relate to them and go, yeah, but you don't know what it feels like. Oh no, but I do.
Mhm,
I know
mhm.
everywhere you've been, and I can empathize with it because I know how stinking hard it is. Now that's kind of off topic of what I was going to say is, and I talk to these guys about this all the time. I said, you know what used to scare me to death? It wasn't if I was facing Pedro. Eh, not I got Pedro Schilling in Boston, and it's like that's not a walk in the park. But I'll tell you what, I know how they're going to come at me, and I know what I did last time, and I know what I've been successful with. So at least I have a game plan. You know what
Mhm.
scares me to death? Once again, I'll use my hypothetical. When Joe Smith, who's this hot shot from AAA, is coming up, and back then we don't have AAA video.
Mhm.
We barely maybe will have a scouting report on him. That's when the panic sets in.
Yeah.
I give me Roger, give me give me Pedro, give me Kevin Brown. All get I don't even want to say this. Don't give me Maddox. I don't want Maddox ever. I don't want him ever. I got a few hits off him late in my career, but it was ugly for a long time. So never. I never want to see Greg again. And he's a good buddy of mine. I just can't stand facing him. Where was I? What was I talking? What was I rambling on about?
I think just I talked about your stats and approach, and you were kinda bringing up what it was, not being afraid of a certain guy. It's just not having
Oh, yeah. That's the
the
biggest thing.
knowledge.
The biggest thing was scare. It was like I don't know what, especially as a veteran player. It's like I don't know what to look for. I don't know what he's
Mhm.
got. We don't have any history. That
Yep.
was panic.
Yeah.
Not when the great ones were pitching. I had my approach. I knew what we're. If I might win tonight and I might lose tonight, but at least I know what I'm doing. When the enemy you have no intel on, it's like what's he got? Does the
Yeah.
ball cut? Does it sink? Does it, and I laugh and I talk to these players today. I said, that's what used to scare me to death is when I didn't know.
Yeah.
You guys, even if there's a guy coming up from double A to face you tomorrow with the technology, you've got video from instructional ball through his last start in double A. So at least you can watch him. And it's good video.
Mhm.
It's not somebody out there with a camcorder
Yeah.
like we
Yeah.
used to have. They tease me all the time when they're like, "Booney, you got any of your VHSs, left?" I said, "I got plenty of them, buddy.
That's
I'm gonna I'm
awesome.
gonna I'm gonna have to call 1-800 whatever when you get them transferred to the
Yeah, get them
computer."
onto a DVD or
Yeah,
computer.
yeah,
Even a DVD is outdated for these kids.
yeah. DVDs. Oh, they don't even know what the DVD is.
They're in a whole different world than us, man. Well, shoot, I already know I could chat with you for a long time, and I think I probably will end up doing that again in the future. But I know you're busy. I know you guys are rolling tonight. Um, what do we got? What can you give us on what we can expect with this Rangers team because they're so talented, and
So talented.
the staff and Bochy, you guys are. I mean, it's all the pieces are there.
Absolutely. And Corey is kind of our big guy, our stud. He's missed some time with a hamstring. and he came back, and he's scuffling a little bit right now. It looks like he's kind of in spring training mode, and he's just a little in between everything. Uh, but he's one of those guys. He's one of those elite special players that you put in the middle lineup. Still, when he's not hitting, he makes a huge difference. Just his presence, almost like a Giancarlo Stanton in that Yankee lineup. I used to say, yeah, Judge is the man. A year ago, Juan Soto is the man, but Giancarlo, when he's there, that lineup, something's different. It's just like
Mhm.
Corey right now, and he hasn't been getting any hits, but just him plopped in the middle of that lineup makes a difference. I think we're going to get him going. Sim has had a tough start to the season. He's starting to get rolling now. He's been hot for the last couple of weeks. Having those two kind of pillars in the middle that have been the Texas Rangers pillars for years, getting it going again, that's going to be huge. Our starting pitching, uh, just stay healthy. I mean, we're as good as anybody in that starting rotation. Our bullpen's going to get better. We just got Martin back. The bullpen's done a great job. We've been a little thin out there, but have done a great job. You got a Cody Bradford, Sabort's coming back as the summer goes on, so that bullpen's going to improve. But that starting pitching, starting with Jacob DeGrom, who I think is the best pitcher in the world, and
Mhm.
a Nate Eovaldi, who's just elite and has been so good, and I just love him as a guy. Uh, Tyler Mahle, the year he's having, and Jack Leiter, who's learning on the. But I'll tell you what, this kid's nasty. He's nasty. Corbin, kind of. Everybody was wondering, is he done? He comes to the Texas Rangers and kind of has a resurgence. He's done a great job for us in the 5 hole. So that starting pitching's been great for us. It keeps us in every game. And this our offense is going to get better. I see little signs of guys coming out of it, but it's a long haul, and it just doesn't happen overnight. I think this is a playoff team. I truly believe that, and I'm not just saying that. But talk is cheap. We got to go out and do it.
Yeah, I think that's what you guys have is the pieces to not have to hit the panic button because when they start clicking, they're as good as anybody, and I think there's a couple teams in the league like that, and I think you guys are one of them. I look forward to it, man. My dad was born in Corpus Christi, so I grew up rooting for Texas, and when they won it, I was excited, and I'm excited to see them get back there. I love Bochy, obviously. Love chatting with you here. I've known you for a few years now since the Carlsbad ground balls that stuck in my head, and
Yep.
I just love seeing you doing what you're doing. And I thought it was a really cool piece of the story when you got this job here, and I'm excited to see what you do with it. And um, we will be following. That's the biggest thing for me is once I get to doing this podcasting, I get to meet you guys and talk to you. And now it's a personal rooting for you. You know, it feels better to know somebody and really enjoy their success. So you're on that boat for me now, and I'm excited to see what you guys do.
You got it, Jake. I appreciate having me on. Good luck with the podcast.
I appreciate it.
Fine.
Well, hey, there's two of us now, the Bret Boone podcast. This is how I even got you here, to be honest with you. I looked at yours. I said, hey, this guy's good at what he does. I enjoy listening to him talk. I want to talk to him. So you're doing a great job on that. What's talk to me real quick before we get out of here about that. How it started, what the future is, what it means to you.
It started in COVID. I went and I did some couple shows for MLB Network, and we were talking about going on there and doing 25 segments a year. COVID hits. Hey, couple. Let's see how this goes. It's going to be a couple weeks. Everybody knows how that turned out. So my agent just came to me, and I wanted to get back in the game in some capacity. He said, I want you to start a podcast. And I thought, you're crazy. And this is around 2020, 2021. I said, you're crazy. I'm not doing a podcast. And he said, well, I think you need some reps on this side of the mic. You've done a ton of interviews throughout your career, but being the interviewer is a different ballgame. And so reluctantly
Mhm.
did my first one. And I remember Andre Reed's a good buddy of mine. We work out at the same gym. And I saw him at the gym. I said, Andre, you're going to be my guinea pig. He said, for what? I said, I'm doing a podcast. And he looked at me, he laughed. He said, all right, I'll do it with you. We did it. And then I started calling my buddies, and then it kind of just went to where it went. It's a little bit on hold now, obviously, with this taking precedence.
Mhm.
But I've got throughout the years, I've had a co-host that comes on once a week and kind of we have a segment Turning to with Booney where he just kind of interviews me when I don't have a guest, and I've had him kind of take a little bigger role in doing the podcast. So we've cut it down. I'm only doing one a week. Sometimes I'll be a part of it. Sometimes he just interviews a guest, but maybe this winter I'll get it going again. But it's interesting. The podcast world is interesting, as you're probably learning.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants to have a podcast and thinks you could just do it. And you start in the first couple like, oh, this isn't a big deal. Well, let me see where you're at in a year, I tell people.
Yeah.
And then 2 years when you run out of content and you need to do, so it's a lot of work. There's a lot of there's just, as you know, there's a lot more goes into it than what people see the finished product. It's booking your guests. It's what if you have a guest cancel on you at the last minute, but he was supposed to be in that slot, and then you got to call somebody else that you really didn't want to have on, and they're in Cabo, and they said, but I'd love to do it next week, but I only needed you for this week. All these things as a player, when I would cancel an interview, I thought, oh, it's no big deal. I just canceled it. And they'd say, hey, no problem, Booney. We'll get you a little bit later. When really, now I realize, no, it is a problem. It is a problem. And I caused people a lot of problems.
Yeah, they were back there going, freaking Boone, what a piece of work this guy is.
Right. We had him scheduled for this slot. Now my slot screwed up and I got to get somebody else. So I have a lot of respect for this side of the mic and what you put up with and what you have to deal with and everything that goes into it. So it's been an interesting journey, but something where I learned a lot doing it. I learned a lot and I had a lot to learn, from my the guy that works with me. He's like, all right, now you got to work on your breathing. You got to work on your breathing. Your breathing. These are the little things in that media world that I never would think about. I do an interview, somebody puts a mic in front, I give them sometimes a BS answer and I move on.
Yeah.
Well, now when you're on this side, it's like, well, now you're breathing too heavy and you're not pausing and you've got to do a sound bite here. So cap it at 9 seconds. So,
yeah.
Anyway, all these things that are fun. Anyway, it was too much of an explanation, but I find
that's all right. I'm gonna chop a little bit of that up and put it in the beginning of the podcast so we get you in there early. I know this for me is, you guys are the ones with the careers here as far as the big leagues, and this whole show is kind of made to put you guys out there and put the spotlight on you guys. So I thank you for the time. It's been awesome and rooting for you. And I think we should check back in when you guys start clicking here after the season and we recap how the first year as the hitting coach was.
You got it, Jake. Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Bret. Appreciate you.
See ya. You got it.
Thank you, Mr. Boone, for the time. It's crazy for me always. It's crazy to talk to these guys, man. I watched him play. He gave me so many good moments and memories during his playing career. To be able to sit down and talk to him here for a good hour is something I am super grateful for, just like I am with all of our guests. Thank you guys for listening. We will catch you on the next episode of the Hold My Ball podcast. You know how it works. Cue the music. Blur me out at some point, and I will see you all on the next episode.